Hey folks, and welcome along to the fourth video in a series of videos I've been creating exploring the Microsoft Docs and Learn tutorials on Azure IoT operations. So in today's video we'll be exploring how we can get insights from the data that we stood up in the previous episode of this series, where we were taking simulated temperature data from a simulated sensor and then delivering that through IoT operations up to Microsoft Fabric and into a lakehouse. So we'll start out by modifying the semantic model of our lakehouse to make it available to Power BI. Then we'll use Power BI Desktop along with a downloaded template to allow us to visualize some of that data, before finally we'll hook up the model underneath that to be able to populate that data up. So we start here in the tutorials. Once again, the bit.ly for this tutorial will be on the screen for you to be able to follow along yourself. As always, IoT operations at the moment is in public preview, so this isn't ready for production yet, but what we're doing here allows us to be able to get a good hands-on of how it's all working. It explains here that in this quick start we'll be populating a Power BI report to capture insights from an OPC-UA asset, just as I've explained. There are some prerequisites here, and it's worth bearing in mind that you will need to have gone through these before you try and follow along with today's video. So we can see that we've got the first quick start here where we've deployed Azure IoT Operations Preview to an Arc-enabled Kubernetes cluster in GitHub Codespaces. And you'll find the bit.ly for that video on the screen at the moment. Next up, we added an OPC-UA asset to our IoT operations preview cluster. And again, the bit.ly will be on the screen for you to follow along with that video. And then finally, in the previous video, we took that telemetry that was coming from that simulated sensor and delivered that to a lakehouse in Fabric. So if you go through all three of those videos before you carry on with this one, then you'll be in a good place. It's worth noticing on the screen here that we'll need a Power BI Pro or Premium per user license to be able to carry on with this tutorial. Now, you can actually get a free Power BI Pro license just here. If you go ahead and click on the link in the tutorial, or the bit.ly will be on the screen again, you can go ahead and sign up to a trial Power BI Pro license there. You'll notice that when you go to that page, it'll look something along this line here, and you can just hit this try free button and you can sign up for a trial license for that. So the other thing you'll need is you'll need to download Power BI Desktop, and the bit.ly for that will be on the screen now as well. And you can just go ahead and hit the download button and download the latest version of that desktop tool. And if you download that and then sign in, which I'll show shortly, then we'll be able to follow along with the rest of the tutorial. So, moving on a little bit, what problem are we going to solve today? Well, again, we're going to be using the OPC data that we were sending to the lakehouse in Fabric, and we're going to create some reports containing graphs and visualizations in Power BI to be able to gain some insights from that data. So the first thing we need to do is update the lakehouse semantic model in Fabric. So we need to go into our Power BI in Fabric, and then we need to select the lakehouse in the top right hand corner and then change it to a SQL Analytics endpoint. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're here back in Fabric on the home page. And if we click Power BI, then at the bottom we've got our workspaces, and if we click workspaces and our PJG IoT Ops 1 workspace, then here's our lakehouse, so you can see that. It's actually also here at the bottom. If we wanted to click on that, it would take us directly to it. So if we click the AIOMQ destination, so to change our model now, we need to click the Lakehouse drop down in the top right hand corner, just here. So if we click that and change that to SQL Analytics Endpoint, and there we are. So we can actually see on the left hand side now that we've got a bunch more databases appearing on the left hand side. So returning to our tutorial. And so the next thing we need to do is switch to the reporting tab and verify that the OPC-UA table is open and select automatically update semantic model. So we click reporting here in the top left. And then make sure that OPC-UA is selected. And then we need to select the automatically update semantic model option here. Okay, and we can see that that's successfully updated the semantic model. And if we click our notifications, we can see that we have a successfully updated semantic model notification. So carrying on with our tutorial. Okay, so now we need to configure a Power BI report. So we're going to download a template here and import that. So we'll open our Power BI application at this moment in time, which is here. And the next thing we need to do is sign in to give it access to our Fabric tenant. So let's do that. So I'm going to sign in with my same entry user I created in this first video, my IoT Ops user. And we'll hit continue. Okay, and we'll sign in. And we'll enter our password. And we'll say no, sign into this app only here, because we don't want to override everything in Windows. Okay, and that's signed us in. So we can see now in the top right hand corner that we've got our IoT Ops user. So let's return to the tutorial. So we need to download the following Power BI template. So let's do that. Okay, and that's downloaded. So now we've got Power BI desktop opened. We can select File, Import, and Power BI Template, and then select the file we downloaded to import it. And so we can go to File, and then Import, and then Power BI Template. And then we can select our Quick Start Insights template and press Open. And we've got a warning here that this is a potential security risk, of course. We should be pretty trustful of the location we've downloaded this, but by all means, you know, use your common sense when you're using these things. So if we just press OK. And now it's asking us for the subscription ID and resource group, likely of our IoT operations. But let's return to the tutorial and make sure. And so yes, we can see here at step 4 that a dialog box pops up. Asking us to input the subscription and resource group. So we need to enter our subscription ID and resource group where we created our assets and press load. And this imports a template that uses a custom Power Query M script to display visuals. We might be prompted to sign into Azure to access the data. There's a note here as well that as the file imports, we can see an error for direct query AS, and this is normal and will be resolved later by configuring the data source. Okay, so we'll need our subscription ID and resource group name. So if we return to the portal and we go to Essentials, we can get our subscription ID from here. And we also know that our resource group is IoT Ops. So returning to Power BI, we can paste them in and press load. So we can paste in our subscription ID and resource group names. Okay, as promised, we've got a sign-in dialog here. So we could do anonymous Windows, basic web API, or organizational account. I'm guessing this is going to be organizational account. So we'll click that, and then we can hit this sign in button just here to try signing into our Azure tenant. So I'm going to use the same IoT Ops user here. And then press next. And then enter our password. And now we're signed in. So let's press connect. Okay, so we've got an issue with the direct query to AS AMQ destination here. So we'll press close. And so if we return to our tutorial, we can see here in this box that we saw before that we're expecting this error here. And that's caused by the fact that we've not configured our data source yet. So nothing to worry about, thankfully. So moving down, the template has now been imported, although the visuals are missing. And that's because we need some configuration to connect our data. So if we see an option for apply changes, then we're going to need to select that and let the dashboard reload. So let's go ahead and check that. And we can see apply changes. So we can go ahead and click that. And we've got the same error, but we can press close. So that doesn't disappear. So let's return to the tutorial. We can see that optionally we can view the script that imports the asset data from the Azure device registry. So if we right-click Asset from the data panel on the right-hand side, we can choose Edit Query. And then we'll see a few queries in the Power Query Editor. And we can go through each of them and select the Advanced Editor at the top to view the details. The most important query it says here is the Get Asset Data query. And these retrieve the custom property values from the thermostat asset that we created in the previous quick start. And the custom property values provide contextual information such as the batch number and asset location. So let's do that. So we can right click on our asset over here. And then we can do Edit Query. And that pops up the Power Query Editor. And then we can click the Advanced Editor button just here to view the query in a bit more detail. And we can see that this is the asset query. And we can press cancel to that. The most important one is the Get Asset Data query. So we'll do the same for that. And then we'll click Advanced Editor. And then we can see the query here. So we're generating pages. And then we're reading all the pages of data. And then we're getting some responses from an endpoint. And getting all of the pages. So that's interesting. So we'll press cancel. Then we can close that. And let's return to our tutorial. So scrolling down, the next thing we need to do is connect our data source. So at this point, the visuals in Power BI are displaying errors, and we've seen those. So if we click File, Options and Settings, and Data Source Settings, then we need to press Change Source. And that's going to display a list of source options. And we need to select our AIOMQ destination. That was the default dataset we updated in the previous section, and press Create. And then in the Connect to Your Data box that opens, we need to expand our dataset and select the OPC-UA telemetry table and then select Submit. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's go to File. And then down at the bottom of the screen, we can see that we have Options and Settings. So we'll click that. And then we'll press Data Source Settings. And then we need to press the Change Source button here. And then we can see our AIOMQ destination data source here. So we'll select that. And then we'll hit the Create button. And now we can see that we've got our OPC-UA table selected. So we can hit the Submit button now. There we are. Now if we press the Close button. And we've got some visuals. Let's hide this tip at the top. And we can see now at the left of our screen, we've got some visuals including the maximum temperature, the maximum pressure, as well as some temperature and pressure data flowing into Power BI. So if we switch left now to our tutorial, and scroll down, we can see the dashboard now loads visual data, which is what we've done. Okay, and then this final section, should we wish to, we could go through the report and start playing with switching up assets and filters to be able to gain some insights if we like, but we'll leave that report here for now. And that is the end of the video. So we can see here that we're able to prepare our lakehouse to be a source for Power BI, and we imported a report template into the Power BI desktop application, and then configured the data connection to allow us to be able to connect to that OPC-UA table and populate the data underneath that report. And so this is the last video in the Getting Started section of videos here. In the next video, I'll continue on with some of the more detailed sections of tutorials here to be able to garner some more information about how IoT operations is working. So I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks, folks.